Trauma. We've all had our fair share. We've all had situations that have changed the essence of who we are, things that have rocked our world, things that we thought would devastate us to the point that we could no longer exist. I know that I have. Have you? There's definitely things that I've learned about resilience when it comes to trauma. So today I want to give you 8 things that trauma has taught me about resilience. Hi, I'm Sheena. I'm also known as the Joy Curator, and this channel is to empower women to rediscover joy, success, and happiness in every aspect of your life because it's never too late to live the life of your dreams. So, if you're ready to embrace change, find new passions, and achieve your dreams, this is the right place for you. So, yeah, I first had to look, and I have my notes here. So if I'm looking down, please forgive me. But I wanted to start off with basically a description of what trauma is. Now, keep in mind, I'm not anybody clinical. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. So please, 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 if you feel like you are in need of any sort of therapy or any type of medical attention, please seek out therapy. It's been a huge help in my life, and it is one of the major reasons why I am feeling as good as I feel today, despite not having a job. Anyway, that's my little disclaimer. Now, trauma, according to the Google, is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. It also states that it's outside the normal range of human experience. Now, I will beg to differ because I feel like everybody at some point in time experiences trauma. So I'm not exactly sure what they mean by outside of normal range of human experience because trauma is very much a part of the human experience. Now, whether we like it or not, that's a whole nother thing. But I sure wish that the human experience was just basically things that consisted of things that I like and I enjoy. Trauma is not one of them. But what I intend to do in this video is basically show you 8 ways that it's taught me about how to be resilient. Because the whole point of this conversation today and for further conversations is to basically use our traumas, the things that are happening or have happened in our life, and use them as a tool to increase the positive things in our life. And one of those things is becoming more resilient. Now, in my next video, I'm going to talk about the myths about resilience because as wonderful as it is to be resilient, there's also a little bit of a downside or a lot of bit of myth when it comes to resiliency that I want us to be able to talk about again. So for the next couple of videos, I'm going to talk about trauma. We're going to just go over like the general aspect of what trauma is today. Oftentimes, we think about trauma, but we don't think about how it's stored in our body and how it affects us well after these things has happened. So that's going to be the focus for these next couple of videos. And then moving forward, we're going to talk about alchemy and how we take those traumatic situations and that traumatic energy and we actually alchemize it into helping us and becoming, I don't like calling it a weapon, but it's one of the things in our toolbox that is going to actually help us create the life of our dreams. Because I guarantee you, when you see the things that you dislike or you go through things that actually is traumatizing in that aspect, in that way, at that second, you know exactly the things that you actually want. So I'm rambling. Let's go to point number 1. So my last video, I said I was talking about abrupt changes. And in that video, I said abrupt changes, which also can be very traumatic, okay? It is a change in perspective that shifts the entirety of who you are. And with that being said, for point number 1, one of the things that resiliency or trauma has given me is how to solve problems or different ways of problem solving. Oftentimes, when we're in a traumatic situation, our body's going to fight or flight. Okay, we can shut down paralyzed, angry. It shows up and we react in different ways. Each person reacts differently. However, for me, one of the things that trauma has taught me is a myriad of problem solving skills. Every time when we are faced with a difficult situation, we often have to think about, well, how, number one, do I prevent this from happening again? Or how do I get through this traumatic situation so that I can get to the other side of it, so that it goes away and that we can move on and move forward with the rest of our lives, right? And so it gives you a different lens to look at different things. So for me, losing my job suddenly, I had to be like, oh, I've lost my income. I don't have a routine anymore. My schedule has completely changed. And so I have to look at each of those different situations and say, well, what are some different things that I can do? How do I spend my day now? What is it that I need in the immediate future? How do I solve the problem of finances? How do I solve the problem of loneliness, of not working or going to a work location, not talking to coworkers on a regular basis? I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words today, y'all. But like doing different things that I probably wouldn't be thinking about had I not lost my job. So that's a different perspective in solving problems, because trauma is going to bring some things to your doorstep that you've never experienced before, but it also gives you the opportunity of solving problems in a different way, solving new problems, that you've never been through before. Another thing, this probably should have went number one, because this is what I think it really taught me. Resilience teaches me about my different strengths. It helps me identify strengths that I did not know that I had. Now we all take, and I take the strengths, different type of strength, personal strength assessment tests and all that different types of stuff, but I ain't no better teacher than trauma, basically, because it shows you a different side of yourself that you probably would not have known had the trauma not taken place in the first place. One of the things I think about, and it may be a little bit of a stretch, but it actually is not, because actually it literally happened. Whenever you're in a situation, and I have a family member, when she was younger, she had literally, I think it was a car, they were in an accident in the car, it landed on her in some sort of way. She was ejected from the car flipped over on her. Her father literally lifted the car up and got her from underneath the car. In that situation, and in many documented situations, you just get this superhuman strength that you don't know where it comes from. And a lot of people will just lift things that they would have never been able to do under normal situations. That's a bit of a stretch, but that is an actual true story. But you find out that you are strong in so many different ways, that the things that you thought that would ruin you, that would collapse your entirety, that would ruin you, break your heart, and that you would never be able to breathe again. I'm thinking Toni Braxton's "Breathe Again, I Shall Never Breathe Again." Anyway, I can't sing, but you know what I mean. The trauma definitely shows you how strong you are and how capable you are of looking adversity in the face and still being able to thrive. Although it be painful and as hurtful as it is, when you look back at it and be like, I had a strength that I never thought that I would be able to have. I didn't think I was that strong. Who would have known? Who would have known? Certainly not me. Okay. Also adaptability. In my first video, when we talked about chaos and embracing change, one of the was it that way? Shit, hold on. What was the name of my video? Hold on, y'all. Yes, embrace chaos. 3 ways to keep smiling in the face of adversity. Something to that nature. In the first video that I did, embracing change was the very first thing that I listed as how do you keep smiling when things are just going crazy and you don't know what's going on and you feel like you just can't persevere, you cannot thrive in these type of environments, right? And so one of those things I said was embrace change. Adaptability, child. You become adaptable when you go through trauma. Everything shifts. You ever see those games where you have like three cups, and in one of the cups, actually they was playing it at the baseball game, and under one of the cups or one of the shells is a ball, and the person goes and like switches them all around, and you got to figure out like where the ball is. um that's what it does. Trying to figure out where I was going with it. That's what trauma does to you. It just, you don't know where the ball is. And so when it comes down to being adaptable and the ball being changed and the goalpost being moved, it encourages you to adapt new realities. mm, I think, as difficult as trauma is, adapting a new reality to me is one of the funner aspects of it. I recently, about over a little bit of a year ago, suddenly lost my father to cancer. Okay. My dad was totally fine living in Virginia. So that was probably like an hour, 10 minutes away from where I live. And I bought my home. And so he was coming back and forth for about a few months, like Christmas up until Mother's Day. Mother's Day, he was supposed to come around my son's birthday party. For whatever reason, we could not reach him. He was just off the radar, which is not normal for my dad and for me too sometimes, because I'll go ghost because I like to just disconnect. I think that's the word. I think my whole family does, honestly. But for my dad, it's not necessarily that scary because normally he'll call you back either that night or the next day, or he'll text you and say, I'll call you back later. So that whole weekend goes by, and it was kind of not normal for my dad not to say, like happy birthday to my son. So I said, "Dad, what's going on?" So he said, I just got a stomach bug, blah blah blah. Long story short, couple days go by. We had to do a wellness check in Virginia for him, and he had to go to the hospital. Back and forth between where I live to Virginia, it's like an hour and a half back and forth. And it turns out that my father had stage 4. It was liver cancer that traveled, I don't know, metastasized into his esophagus. So it was too late. By the time we tried to do the chemotherapy and prep him and everything, he was in and out of the hospital, retaining a lot of fluid. And in the late part of June, my father transitioned off of this physical realm, and that definitely changed my reality a lot. As traumatic as it was to suddenly lose my dad, um, it adapted. I had to adapt a new reality of now living in this house without my father, who I would call about my garage isn't going up anymore, like, or blown fuse, or how to look at the fuse box, or all different types of like handyman stuff. My dad was the handyman. I had to adapt a new reality. I had to look into different ways to take care of my home and still have that connection with my dad. Even though he's not physically here, I had to find a way to connect with him on an ongoing basis, because just because he's not physically here anymore doesn't mean that he's no longer my dad. It just means that he's, up in heaven with my other heavenly father, and they just making things work out even better for me down here. So adaptability, when it comes down to changing what your reality is. 4, emotional awareness. When you're going through these traumatic events, you become, I guess, more aware of how you're feeling emotionally. And one of the things that, after my father passed away, one of the things that my boss told me during my one-on-ones was that he says, Sheena, you are the most self aware person that I have ever met in my life. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, when you go through what I've gone through, you don't have no other choice of knowing exactly who you are, how you are, what your weaknesses are, what you thrive in, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Because after a whole bunch of trauma, what I'm not going to do is sit down and waste time doing stuff that I either am not good at, I don't thrive at, I don't enjoy, or does not bring any value into my life. And so that's one thing that I know emotionally, I read myself fairly well, very well. I would say fairly to very well when it comes down to my emotional responses, how I'm feeling in my body, or different types of things that are happening throughout the day. If I need to sleep, if I need a break, if I need to work, if I don't need to work, all those things have to do with me being now more self-aware because of all the trauma that I've gone through. And resiliency is that thing. Resiliency is understanding that I understand that what's happening right now is difficult. I've been here before. However, these are the things that I'm strong at. This is the way that I can adapt. This is how I feel when I'm doing these things because I've been there before, if that makes sense. I hope it does. All right, number 5, empathy and compassion. Lord, when you go through trauma, empathy and compassion, you start to empathize a lot easier with what other people are going through. It doesn't mean that you're going to sit there through the stuff, you know what I mean? But you can empathize, you can be extremely compassionate for, I don't want to compare it to this, no, for what other people are going through. Y'all don't kill me. But it's resiliency. It's resiliency. And this is resiliency, okay? Becoming a new parent. It's a beautiful, listen, it's a beautiful thing, and it's not outside of human experience based upon this description, okay, but it is something that can be deeply disturbing. That's the sleeping. And if you're I had did y'all have did you let me know in the comments, when you had a new baby, did y'all have what was it called, postpartum blues? Why was I crying as soon as the sun goes down? When my daughter was first born, I would just go into the bathroom of the hospital and go into the bathroom and just cry, just because the sun was going down. I had no idea why, but I didn't know it lasted about 4 years postpartum. That makes sense. However, now, me being at 40, I do have empathy and compassion for those who are dealing with young children because I have been there, and that is a level of resilience. Them children will test your patience, child, and that resiliency. I am compassionate. I empathize with you. Go ahead and take care of that baby child. A sick one at that? Oh, anyway, empathy and compassion. Be compassionate when it comes down to when people are losing their homes or losing their jobs, break up, divorces. Um, when you see the trauma from in other areas, it builds a certain type of level of empathy in you that allows you to connect with the other person. Okay, what are we on? We are number 6. Okay, 20 minutes in. All right. So, sense of purpose. When you become resilient, you have a brand new lease on life, right? You want to go through and you say, okay, the minute that you experience something traumatizing, like losing your job, you say, okay, I never want to be in a situation ever again where somebody is controlling my destiny, or someone is controlling how much money I make, or someone is telling me they can't afford my services anymore. And so now my whole, life is shaken up because of somebody else's doing. All right. And so when you see that something is happening that you don't like, that's not aligned, that's traumatic, you also understand immediately the things that you do want, the things that you want in your life. Once you have a breakup from somebody, you already know, I don't want a man, woman that does X, Y, and Z. You immediately know my dream man is going to have this, and the other. Anyway, it gives you a clearer sense of purpose. and a renewed sense of purpose in a different direction in life. Oh, I can go on and on and on about that. I really can. But we got I got time. Number 7, and this is probably where I'm going to go with the myths part about resilience. However, increased tolerance for discomfort. I'm just gonna. It happens. It happens when you are resilient due to trauma. Okay, you do have an increase. I don't even know. You do have an increased tolerance. Your tolerance have increased, but at the same time, it might have decreased too. So that's where I'm kind of just like, because I don't got time for the BS. Like, you're not about to come over here with no BS. Okay, but it does. If it's abrupt and something is happening where, people could be going crazy and not understanding. It could be a change at work where people wasn't expecting something to happen. A lot of people might become overwhelmed by it, and you're like, resilient, resilient, resilient. And it's like, okay, we can get through this. Let's look at the problem solving skills that I've learned and let's be adaptable and figure this out. So I think increased tolerance for discomfort is definitely something that trauma has taught me. The next and the last for my number 8, building support networks. And I'm happy. Ooh, I didn't mean to hit the thing. I am happy that I left this at the last one because it is actually by far the most important and the one that I want to leave you guys with. When you are going through a traumatic situation, okay, resiliency would require you to have people around you that's going to hold you up, lift you up, and support you through that traumatic experience. It is very difficult to be resilient without someone. It doesn't need to be a whole group of people or something that's going to support you through what it is that you're going through. Community is something that I am extremely passionate about because I feel the lack of it in my life and in other people's lives. Somehow, some way, we have really lost our sense of community. Even when it comes down to your physical community and where you actually reside. Um, there's now HOAs, like a lot of there's no, at least in my neighborhood, we don't have any block parties or get to know your neighbors or like Wednesday wind down in the courtyard. We don't have any of those type of things. And y'all know me, I'm a Libra. So I'm gonna try to have a conversation with you. I'd rather it be in a way that's already planned out. So I emailed the HOA. I said, hey, can we get like something so my kids get to know the other kids, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, they thought I had to talk to the board. Ain't nobody talking to no board. I don't even know who the board members are yet. Anyway, community is important. We have lost that. Resiliency requires us to have a group of people around us that's going to hold us up while we're going through these situations, while we're experiencing this new shift that changes the entirety of who we are as we're going through these abrupt changes, as we're going through all the things that we have been and will be going through for the foreseeable future. We definitely need community. And me going through the traumatic experiences that I have been through have recognized that in order for me to be resilient, community is definitely important. With that being said, I hope these 8 lessons were helpful for you. I kind of stumbled through them, but maybe the content is out there, the information is out there, and as long as you picked up on one of these things that's going to help you out, then that's all that matters to me. The thing about it is it doesn't have to be perfect. This is my 3rd YouTube video. I'm showing you that as long as you stand up, you do it consistently, you come with information that people need and people want to hear, You don't have to be perfect at it. Now, will I get better at this? Absolutely, yes. My lighting's going to get better. My background going to get better. My skin going to get better. I did put a little makeup on for you guys today just to make it a little bit different. See how it showed up on camera. However, just show up. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just show up. So that's it for me today. My next video is going to be about trauma and resiliency and the myths therein when it comes down to resiliency, because it can be a little bit of a negative connotation, but we'll get to that in the next video. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you made it this far, it's really late. Thank you for staying with me this entire time. Please, please, please subscribe and click the notification bell to let you know when I upload my videos so you can join this journey with me. I do hope to create a community of women who want better for themselves and want a life that's enchanted and beautiful and joyful and just juicy and sexy. So yeah, follow. Join me on Instagram. It's the Joy Curator over there too. I'll be happy to have you over there. But let's keep this going so that we can start building the community of women that we need so we can have the life of our dreams. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Be safe until next time. Bye bye.